Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, check it out, patreon.com. So that's the real underscore G Warner. On this episode, we're going to go through the Europa League and the Europa Conference League. And my favorite part about it, as I destroy my entire setup, if you're watching on video on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever, please hit subscribe, leave a 5-star review, it'd be huge while I fix my set. But I'm most excited because I love when we have pretty well-defined situations in second legs. And that's what we have here because both these leagues, the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, are playing basically two-leg pigtails, as they call them. And when I used to wrestle competitively, they would call pigtails to get into the bracket. So essentially, the third place teams in the Champions League, also in the Europa League, that then drop down a level to the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, they have to win a two-legged playoff against a second place finisher in the Europa League and Europa Conference League, respectively. So we already know because we've had one leg done on basically all these matches, and now we get to see really we get to use the lines that are out there to really judge what do teams need, what type of strategy are they going to employ, because there are lots of changes that will occur based on whether a team, even if they're much lower budgeted, if they're going to have to go really aggressive and try to win a match and win by a margin as well. So we'll get into that. I'll do ultimate best bet end of show. So I'll pick one favorite bet from the Europa League, one favorite bet from the Europa Conference League, push them off together and see which one I like best compared to everything. I have been tracking lines, at least a fair amount, so I should be able to give ideas of where lines have moved, at least since I've been tracking them. So that will all be good. And without further ado, I think it's time to start. And we'll start in the we'll start with the Europa League because that's I think also has two advanced numbers that are updated, so that'll also be good. So thank you for tuning in. I'm the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and on Twitter plus YouTube. So follow along wherever you're listening. If you're watching live, I appreciate it. And we'll start with Karabag, and they are hosting Sporting Braga. So there's a significant change in the two advanced numbers here. And that's because Karabag are up 4-2 on aggregate. I'm trying to find a best place for me to access all this stuff as quickly as possible. But we'll start with that Karabag match, and so they took a 4-2 win on the road at Braga, which I think speaks to the disappointment that Braga were this entire Champions League season, falling into the Europa League, which wasn't, I think, ultimately as disappointing for them, but just hasn't been a really good run for them, and they are in big, big trouble now. Have to go on the road. I think Karabag is in Azerbaijan, and they have to go win on the road and win by at least 2 goals to send this extra time, win by 3 in regulation, which this number is fairly receptive to that type of idea, especially considering Sporting Braga were a pretty significant favorite. I'll see if I can pull that up to move through to advance way back when. Let's see. They were so Sporting Braga was a minus 450 favorite, closed minus 380. So some money came in, knocked that down 18.5%. Karabag were plus 325 and were 285, the last thing I tracked before kickoff last Thursday. Well, that's changed significantly. Now, Karabag is minus 700 with a 2 goal advantage heading home. So, but we now I can tell you the number here, the price, and so we basically moved into Karabag a quarter goal underdog at home. So that's pretty low considering the 4-2 victory and the fact that they were a pretty big underdog. Let's see if I can find what they were last time. So they were a goal underdog, closed there, opened a goal and a half. So like there's clearly a lot of money coming in on Karabag, and I think people believed in them pulling off a pretty decent, probably not a 4-2 upset, but pretty good situation for them to be in. And Karabag ultimately can sit on the ball. Can lose 2-0 and go to extra time. So that tells me they're going to probably be pretty conservative with how they approach this matchup. And Sporting Braga should be very aggressive. So it's weird that Sporting Braga are only a quarter goal favorite. Yes, it's on the road, and sure that was not great. But if you just reverse the quarter goals that I usually assign for home field advantage in this sport, then a 1 goal underdog would have made Sporting Braga a half a goal favorite. And all the juice right now is on Karabag at home. So clearly there's been a big change in what teams were expecting, or those initial lines were just a complete joke, which is part of the why I'm very interested in betting in the Europa League, Europa Conference League, because these are not the easiest to watch type of teams. I really don't even know how to watch La Liga Portugal, which is one of the bigger ones and has plenty of Champions League good performers. Like we saw Porto beat Arsenal today with a late goal and really looked like a draw going into the second leg anyway, which would have certainly covered the spread as they close a 3-quarter or 1-goal underdog. But feels like I mean, I just don't really see a lot of value in Colorado because when they lose this match, let's say 1-0, they're celebrating, moving on to the next round, and they are losing you money. So that makes it really hard for me to want to back Colorado. I mean, Sporting Braga are going to be going for this, try to win and not even go to extra time. So that would probably be my interest in that one is the Sporting Braga side giving a quarter of a goal, even though I don't love to do that in this sport whatsoever, and especially not on the road. But I think the scenario sets up really well for Sporting Braga as a short road favorite. Total here is 2 3/4, just a little bit more to over. That probably speaks to Sporting Braga trying to score a bunch of goals and will likely be leaving their defense wide open for Colorado to counterattack. But that doesn't guarantee 3 goals. Carlbach, I'm sure, will be trying to keep this as low scoring as possible. So I think that's probably my biggest interest in this matchup, and that is the under 2 3/4 in Carlbach and Sporting Braga. So move next to we'll go to Ren hosting in Milan. So these are all the like late afternoons from last weekend. They basically flip-flopped them to the earlies, if I'm not mistaken. And Ren lost 3-0. Defense was awful. Pretty poor performance at San Siro. And Milan, I mean, with a very poor performance coming after that big win that they were hoping would have changed their fortunes, or they had been getting a bunch of results in Serie A that I'm not really sure they deserved, but it's been working fairly well for them. Well, Milan then went and lost to their like small suburban neighbor this past weekend in Monza in the last matchup on Sunday. Yes, it was on the road, and this is another road match, but ultimately, I think Monza is just a suburb of Milan. Like one of the Monza players were stabbed or was stabbed in a Milan area supermarket. So, like, I mean, it's all very close to each other. So that wasn't too big of a road trip, but it was a bad loss. Probably could blame some of their legs potentially and fatigue being an issue considering how well they played. And that was a big game for them because they were trying to take the second position from Juventus in Serie A. Well, that didn't happen. And the fortunate part is they're very likely to be in the next round. I'm sure I don't even think BetOnline was offering a price earlier. By the way, if you're not a member of BetOnline or SportsBetting.ag, I have links in the podcast description on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or on Spotify. Don't have it on the live video on Twitter. Apologies, but there's not enough characters because Twitter still limits you until Elon Musk. I don't like to say his name until he changes something else that really made the product great. But unfortunately, I don't think BetOnline was even offering a too advanced number. Ren have a huge hole to dig out of. And currently Ren are a pick 'em, a little more juice on the Milan side. Over under here is 2.5, just slightly more to over. Now, Ren followed up with a win this weekend, bounced back. And I think it was more of a dominant win than I was expecting, certainly, and I think most of the Liga market as well. But they have a huge, I mean, they were a really good goal scoring team in the past, have kind of changed their form after a really poor start to the season, switched managers. But this is a huge situation. The nice part is Ren only have to win for you to cover the spread here. A draw, you get all your money back. So you're not even laying a quarter. Milan, I mean, what I've kind of noticed in these rounds, even with what almost looks like the next round sewn up, there isn't as much rotation as you'd expect. Now, Milan are a good candidate for that, considering they're still fighting in Serie A. To try to give Inter, their city rival, hated rival, as much of a trouble as possible. And I think Ren is, I mean, I'm interested in Ren because they need to win this match by multiple goals since they have a 3-0 deficit. And they are only a pick 'em. So that feels pretty cheap. And at home, I think they should win this match. So I like pick 'em there, especially minus 106 compared to minus 114 that Milan is dealing right now. In terms of movement, I'll try to give an idea of where that's been. It seems like some money's been coming in on Milan. So unless Stade Rennais or Rennes from France is giving up, I'm very interested in that side to say the least. Move next to Toulouse hosting Benfica in one of the crazier matches of last Thursday. Brutal for my under, considering there were two penalties in the second half, including one in like the 98th minute, I think, of 96 that were supposed to be added on, 6 minutes. So Toulouse, they fought really hard, played pretty much the best lineup they could, despite fighting relegation in Liga, but then followed up and played a really good lineup in Liga this weekend as well. So there's definitely some concerns and fatigue levels here. Toulouse, I mean, unfortunately, took a 2-1 loss on the road and have to avenge that. So they have to be more aggressive. Benfica were the aggressor of the first leg, but really struggled to do much with a ton of possession. So I'm not so scared of Benfica. They've been so bad in all the European competitions, including being really bad, and we're supposed to finish second in the group ahead of Real Sociedad, and ended up coming third. And that was pretty fortunate, I think, based on a win on the last match day or a couple wins back to back. But Toulouse, they have so much that they have to really fight against. The nice part is Toulouse are only a half a goal underdog, or that they are a half a goal underdog because they have to win this match. A draw in this leg will send Benfica through, but they're favored to win here. So I'm interested in the Toulouse side. I also like, I mean, under 2 3/4. It was amazing that it even got to three that first leg, though. Fortunately, I had under three, so I pushed there as opposed to losing. If I had 2 3/4, like this number suggests, I would have lost my mind. There's more juice in the under here. But I don't know that Benfica are really going to defend that much. I think Toulouse are going to probably be a lot more open, which does concern me, but that match had no business hitting 3 goals. So I'm interested in Toulouse getting that half of a goal, also to the under 2 3/4. So next move to Freiburg hosting Racing Club de Lens. This was a goalless draw first leg. I played under and thought about playing Freiburg, but ultimately was pretty concerned. And then Freiburg's defense really showed its flaws this past weekend. But we're pretty good in a goalless draw and basically took the advantage back home to the Schwarzwald, the Black Forest in southwestern Germany. So Lens, coming from, I think, the northwest of France, they have a great home court advantage. Unfortunately, they don't have that here, and they will probably not play as well. Lens currently a quarter goal underdog with all the juice right now away. Over under here is 2 1/4, down from 2.5, just a little bit more to over. Very interested in the road team here because Lens are a lot healthier. I mean, Freiburg at this point, they are playing Manuel Gulde and also a converted central defensive midfielder who I think is 21 years old, maybe 23, because he's about to leave for Stuttgart. Apparently, it's an unkept secret next season. But he basically was playing his first competitive minutes at center back last weekend in that match that they went to Lens in France for. It worked out very well, but then this weekend conceded 3 goals, got embarrassed on the first one when we fell over trying to change position so he could clear the ball, and then was just a horrible defensive mistake in basically just guarding nobody in the middle of nowhere, allowing a very easy pass from Frankfurt to take, I think, their third lead of that Sunday match. So I'm definitely concerned about the Freiburg defense. I do feel like the Freiburg offense is very limited. They do somehow have some big outscoring outputs, but then have a lot of inconsistency, which I think is really because their offense is not very good at scoring goals. And then they just have a couple days where things work out really well. I think that they're bound to come back to potentially shut out, and that would, by definition, make Lens a winner, getting a quarter of a goal. Though I think Lens will probably, I mean, I'm looking at them to advance here because I saw them fall all the way down to Pick'em, or excuse me, to plus 100 at the to advance number, considering I think they closed about minus 180 when the injury stuff came out last weekend. So very interested in backing Lens here, both the side and the total. I do feel like the side is a little bit of a hedge on the total if Freiburg's defense really has as many problems as I think it may. But I just think that these two leagues are pretty similar. German Bundesliga and France Liga. I mean, they're a couple of places away in the I guess the country rankings, but I don't think they're that different really at all. So I'll leave the two advanced stuff till the end. I'll move and just do the spreads here to the end of this Europa League section, but then I'll do the Conference League next. I don't think we have any of those yet at Bet Online. We might tomorrow, but just going what we have live that are actually bettable in front of us right now. So I'll move to Sparta Prague hosting Galatasaray, currently a pick'em. Sparta Prague Slightly bigger favorite, or a bigger favorite at home, minus 115 versus minus 105. So 10-cent difference right now on the home team. Over under here is 3, juiced very heavily to under, which I don't think I saw that as 3 earlier. So yes, that's a move. So it basically climbed from 2 3/4 to 3. So that's a pretty important push position if you're looking to back under here. Galatasaray were not under an underside whatsoever, though. And this first leg finished 3-2 to Galatasaray at home, which you probably would expect in Istanbul for Turkish Giants. And now they have to go on the road and hang on to their lead. I think Galatasaray, who are basically a huge list of the most talented players that are past their primes, that were not getting contracts renewed in Germany and the top 5 European leagues. They basically moved to Turkey and to Istanbul, the capital, probably for the money and also for a new contract because they're actually wanted there, unlike some of these players in Germany or in other places. But Sparta Prague, they're the smaller of the two Prague clubs. I hope that doesn't get me in too much trouble, but Slavia Prague, I think, has been better, and I don't think that's really arguable for a while now. Galatasaray should be better, but if this ends a draw, Galatasaray are celebrating. So there is some safety there with the Sparta Prague side. I think I'd probably want them underdogs, though, because I do fear that they're going to overextend themselves. Um, and that does make me a little bit less interested in backing them. I think Galatasaray trying to play defensively doesn't really seem to go with who they are or what their squad makeup is. But a 3 is a bigger price than I was expecting, and I love basically anytime I can get 3. I feel like that's there's a fair amount of safety in a push there, especially when we've seen goals scoring so low in the European competition so far, mainly the Champions League, which has had pretty much no goals scored despite some of the best scoring teams in all of Europe. But I guess I'll put that under 3 on my list, then I'll move on to the next one, which is Marseille hosting Shakhtar Donetsk. So we saw this crazy back and forth matchup coming from somewhere in Europe, I believe in Hamburg in Germany, northern Germany, which is not a home field advantage for Shakhtar Donetsk, though it seemed to have a fair amount of fans there and a fair amount of support when they took the lead, or when they equalized 2 different occasions. Shame on Marseille for struggling there, but they've been really struggling. Lost late. I think Up a Man also lost on the road at Stade Brestois this past weekend. Now they finally get a home match at the Stade Orange Velodrome, which they should have a huge crowd advantage there, and just a big crowd in general. But unfortunately, they are pretty finicky and they get very upset very easily. They think Marseille should be winning Ligue 1 every season, and there's a huge chasm between Paris Saint-Germain and also Marseille. So Marseille currently a 3/4 goal favorite. Juices split both ways. That's been moving very little so far. Total here is 2 3/4. With a lot more juice on the under than the over. I don't really agree with an underlean here. Shakhtar Donetsk have not been a defensive team at all in Champions League nor in this competition, as we saw 2-2, I believe, in that first leg. Yes, we did. And I think Shakhtar, a single goal loss here gets them eliminated, but it returns half your stake. And there's a good chance that they can score late because they were able to do it against Marseille, I think, twice on 2 different occasions to level. They have the Ukrainian spirit. Not all Ukrainians playing for Shakhtar Donetsk, but they are, to me, a team that is taking on the metal of the metal, not metal like the substance. Well, I guess they're probably both substances anyway. Not like iron, metal, whatever, but like the metal, the spirit of Slava Ukrainian, of Ukraine in general. So I'm into that. I don't know if that's more of me just making a narrative up because I'm talking about it right now, but I think I've seen, and I think anyone who's followed this closely has seen, Shakhtar Donetsk have been a team that will fight literally until the death. So I am very interested in that side. I love the idea of fading Marseille. I'm hoping this hits a +1 before we get there. I don't think that'll happen. I am fairly interested, though, that you only lose half a bet if they do lose by a single goal. So I'll put that 3/4 on my list. I just don't think I could put anything for the total until we get three. And even then, I just feel like they play high scoring matches. Shakhtar Donetsk, they love to get on the break. Sometimes they try to leak out a little bit too early. And that's what really puts them in trouble. Plus, they're really just a young team full of young players that are playing at Shakhtar Donetsk trying to get their moves to other places. So certainly not the rigid defense that you'd see from Marseille. Moving next to Roma hosting Feyenoord. Currently Roma a quarter goal favorite with all the juice. Looks like that might be climbing to a half of a goal, which is about what I made it. Total here is 2.5. Juices split both ways. Looks like some money has been coming in on. Well, I guess no, it's been going back and forth. It looks like so. It was initially coming on Marseille. It's back on Feyenoord, so that side hasn't moved much. The total has climbed a little. I guess there's a little more juice to over, so I guess some under money has been coming in. So I backed Roma in the first leg, a 1-all final. Roma were only a quarter goal underdog, so I won half a bet, which was nice. So I'll never complain about that, especially considering they were behind and had to get a equalizer from Romelu Lukaku. So Feyenoord, they had the big crowd in front of them. I didn't think they were that impressive, but did find a goal, and then Roma really had to come from behind and found a goal themselves. So teams are pretty equal. I imagine the Stadio Olimpico in Roma, it should be in Rome. It should be a very pro Roma crowd. Duh. But I think it's gonna be really hard for Feyenoord to go in there. Ultimately, I feel like the totals. I mean, 2.5 is a bit above what I made it. I mean, it's not really like that. I get a push on 2.5, so you'd win if it lands two. Roma have been scoring a ton of goals ever since their parting ways with Jose Mourinho, but I don't know if I fully believe that Roma deserve. I mean, they've been playing with the same players basically, maybe changing some philosophies a little bit because Roma's pretty negative under Mourinho. But I just feel like their studs are there. I mean, Paulo Dybala and Romelu Lukaku are awesome and some of the biggest names, but I feel like they are overrated from what they're producing at this time in their career. Now, Lukaku 2, 3 years ago was the hottest striker in all of the football world, and that's what led to Chelsea to spend a ton more money that of course, they love spending and love doing. But I think from this perspective, I don't really back favorites in this sport. So it's been very lucrative for me in college basketball so far this season, but not so much. I've never really done that in my soccer betting. I think the only thing I'd really want here is the under 2.5. I just think Feyenoord are going to really miss their crowd, and I think it's going to be really hard for them to go into Roma and somehow find a victory. So, and until they get a half of a goal, it's probably not even really worth it for me to play around there. So I'll put Feyenoord under 2.5 on my leans list, and we'll get to one more match. Then I'll go over the two advanced numbers in the Europa League, and then everyone stick around for the Europa Conference League because I know everyone is very interested in that. But thank you everyone who's doing this late night with the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. So we'll move now to Sporting Lisboa. They are hosting Young Boys Bone of Switzerland. Currently, Sporting Lisboa a 1.5 goal favorite. More juice on Young Boys right now. Over under here is 3.25, juiced all the way to over. So this was a 3-1 first leg, Sporting a pretty big favorite, if I recall correctly, on the road, and they're now a 1.5 goal favorite at home. Kind of feels similar to what that number looked like that last time, so not much of an adjustment there. I don't know if Sporting are going to go and just try to murder this team, but young boys haven't really been that impressive, to say the least. One of the longest shots in Champions League, and honestly looks like a pretty nice little draw for Sporting Clube de Portugal or Sporting Lisboa to draw. I don't really have much to say more about this one. I think it's probably better to just go through the two advanced numbers, and then we'll be able to hopefully find some other potential possibilities. I generally make most of my plays before the two legs begin because I feel like that's the best time for value. It's more like you're kind of live betting even if you're doing it after that first match has ended. But maybe if there's a different situation or potential opportunity, we'll find it. So we'll start with Benfica Toulouse. So Benfica a 2-1 aggregate lead heading into their away stretch. And I was not very impressed with Benfica, I gotta say, and I still really am not. So I think it's probably one of those things where Benfica 7-1 on, so minus $700 win 100. So they're in pretty safe shape. I just worry about Toulouse considering how they use their best players for that first leg and also for Liga this weekend. If they use their best players again, I really worry about burnout. Yes, they're more used to, I mean, they've been used to playing Europa League, so they're used to playing 2 matches in a week. But I feel like there's potential here for a really tired performance from Toulouse. Though at home, they should have a lot of crowd behind them, and that should certainly help them. I just don't know if there's any, especially being down a goal. I feel like that might be too much to overcome, especially when they have to be aggressive and they want to play defensively. But they have scored some goals in league on it ever since the restart after New Year's. Racing Club de Lens from France, they visit Freiburg, currently Lens, even money right now with Freiburg minus 130 to advance based on home court advantage, home field advantage, home pitch advantage, whatever we're calling. This was goalless first leg, so whoever wins here gets through. I'm tempted by Lens, but what I don't like is that if they go to extra time, I mean, the penalty kicks is pretty much a toss up, but even then, I would favor the home team. So, and in extra time, I would favor the home team as well. So, I think there's almost I mean, you don't have to advance in regulation if you're Lens here, but I feel like that would be I would think that you're getting a bad price if you're getting even money on Lens in extra time or in penalty kicks on the road. So I think I want to wait to see this number climb, but that's certainly a way I was interested in and something I was looking at before the first leg took off. But the number got away from me. There's a lot of money that came on Lens, and I think it was for good reason. Next is Sporting Braga plus 475. So $100 bet wins you 475 US. Karabag minus 750 is a significant change, but that's what happens when 4-2 is a road win. And now Sporting Braga have to go on the road some uncharted territory to then potentially overturn this. I think that's too big of a number, though certainly Sporting Braga are the bigger club here. Moving to the late window, we'll start with Feyenoord plus 150 underdog to Roma. That has changed a little bit, I guess, to say the least, though. It's essentially uh, Roma were able to hold serve away from home, and that's huge for their to advance chances. They were as low as plus 115, so that changed to 150. I mean, that's pretty significant, 23% increase, which is probably deserved. I don't really want to back Feyenoord without that home crowd behind them. If you're going to back them, you probably want to take that plus 101 plus 115 is like what it closed at earlier. And if he didn't do that, maybe it was better because they didn't win that home leg. Galatasaray minus 300 favorite, so 1-3 or 3-1 on. Sparta Prague plus 230. So Galatasaray with a 1 goal advantage. Sparta Prague have to overturn that. They've increased a fair amount, but ultimately not incredibly. So they were 160 is what it closed, and are now, let's see, they are 230 as I just said. So I mean, not perfect, and certainly not the situation you probably want to be in, but ultimately they grown 30% based on losing away. But I mean, they probably going into that matchup were like, if we can hang around and just have to win our match at home, that'll get us extra time. You could, if you see them doing that, I mean, you could certainly look to back them, and they are pick 'em. So the market does give them somewhat of a chance. Shakhtar Donetsk plus 220, Marseille minus 280. That is not much of a change, really. Ultimately, it closed plus 215, coming down from 250. So Shakhtar Donetsk had been getting bet a little bit. Had come down 17% or so, or 16 and change. And then now I guess when you look at the plus 220, I mean, I'm interested, but going on the road into the Marseille, a really tough place to play with youngsters, youth team, really compared to Marseille's grizzled veterans. I just don't know if there's enough there for me. So it's probably another one that I'll skip. But probably I guess the biggest interest for me in the Europa League, potentially two advanced numbers, would be Lens, but I want to get more than even money. The rest, I mean, there's some decent gambles you could make if you're looking to try to spray some things and have some very entertaining football, which it could potentially be, especially if you get to penalty kicks late. Shakhtar Donetsk plus 220 is interesting. Sparta Prague at home plus 230 probably looks a little bit better than that. And then the rest, I mean, I don't even know where to go. But Toulouse, I mean, they are at home, but they have to avenge a deficit. That's going to be hard. And Sporting Braga on the road down two. That looks like probably way too hard to want to speculate on. But I've certainly seen worse bets in this world. So we'll move now to actually before we move to the Europa Conference League, and I will do an ultimate best bet end of show. But I got to pick my ultimate best bet qualifier from the Europa League, and had a long list of things. And of course, if you want to subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, probably if you want to get this little short section with a minute long, I try to cut them for each podcasts I do. Put them on Reels on Instagram at the real underscore G Warner and on YouTube Shorts at the real underscore G Warner. But this is probably the spot for you if you want to consume this as quickly as possible. But for my best bet in the Europa League, I think I'm gonna go with. I guess I didn't even write this all down, which is my bad. I should have been better about that. But I forgot to put Lens getting a quarter of a goal on there and under two and a quarter as well. So for my best bet, I'm going to go with that. It's an earlier window match, but I like Lens getting a quarter of a goal on the road at Freiburg. I think I'll actually probably play the under two and a quarter, as I think there's a little bit more safety there. In potentially another grinded out type of match where if Freiburg do somehow win 1-0, you at least win that under, because I don't see Freiburg scoring a lot. And I think this is going to be a pretty tight match that they use their crowd quite a bit. So I'll go for the best bet from Europa League. I'll go Racing Club de Lens on the road at Freiburg under two and a quarter goals. And so now I'll move to the Europa Conference League. I don't think I have two advanced numbers, so be it. But I will shout out exactly where we're at. So Bodo Glimt, they host Ajax currently. Bodo Glimt a quarter goal favorite with all the juice on Ajax on the road. Over under here is 3.5, juiced all the way to under, and that's been moving up a little bit. Seems like the over's been getting bet a fair amount. It was a 2-2 draw in the first leg in Amsterdam, so Ajax Amsterdam have to go on the road and prove that they're better. And they're a slight underdog here. So they got plenty to play for. I don't know necessarily that Bodo Glimt necessarily showed that they were, I mean, it was a huge draw for them on the road, definitely. But I don't know that I've all of a sudden, I mean, Ajax have had a really tough run of it. They've changed sporting directors, managers, all these sort of things this season, but they've improved and got into this competition. So I guess they avoided finishing last in a pretty tough group, if I remember correctly, with Marseille and Brighton and somebody else that was also good, I think, and AEK Athens maybe. I like that quarter of a goal. The totals feels very high to me, which I think is very respectful from Ajax. But after 2-2 in the first leg and Ajax probably playing an aggressive style of football that they always do, that makes me feel like there's goals, especially for road teams that come in there as a road underdog and play aggressively. But I do like that side, I guess. Move to Dinamo Zagreb hosting Real Betis, long trip from Sevilla to Zagreb in Croatia, but Zagreb with a kind of smash and grab 1-0 victory on the road at Real Betis last weekend. I played under there. I also played against Betis and under. Should have done that in the Dinamo Zagreb match. I just played under because I was a little concerned about the Croatian side competing. But then I played Alaves side and under against Real Betis, and they didn't score at all in two matches last weekend. Or last week, one midweek, one weekend. So Real Betis, that's been their problem. They can't score goals. So why do I expect that to change? I really don't. The problem here is Zagreb currently a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under here is 2.5, juice a little bit more to under than to over, just 4 cents difference. But a very juice quarter of a goal, Dinamo Zagreb. Problem is Betis, if they win by a goal, and this goes to extra time, I don't think Dinamo Zagreb are pushing and throwing all caution to the wind to cover your spread. So that means that if you're back in Dinamo Zagreb here, you're expecting they can keep Real Betis from scoring again, which is possible. But I really think you're really betting on Dinamo Zagreb to just not let Real Betis do much, and Dinamo Zagreb are potentially going to win this match. So that's a little bit too much for me to say. I do think that I'm still looking to be against Real Betis as much as I possibly can, and the way to do that really to be against their offense is by betting under 2.5 in that matchup. We'll move next to Ludogorets hosting Servette. Look at the aggregate. It was goalless the first matchup. Feel like the line moved forever. I was just tracking this and felt like spending all my time seeing which way the line is moving. But Ludogorets currently a half a goal favorite at home. All the juice in Servette on the road. Over unders 2.5. Juice all the way to under. I believe Servette is in Geneva in Switzerland. I'm not sure where Ludogorets is, but I guess I could look it up, but who really cared? Oh, I guess while I'm here. They play at Ludogorets Arena, which is good to know. Maybe it's Hungary. Oh, Bulgaria. There it is. Okay. So Ludogorets, they are the home team. They are favored at home. So I don't know that I have much more to say. I mean, I guess I'd lean to under because I just don't believe there are going to be a lot of goals in this competition. But here we are. Moving now to the late window, we have Eintracht Frankfurt hosting Union Saint-Gilloise, the leaders in Belgium, against I guess, middle table European challenging Eintracht Frankfurt. Crazy matchup on the road at Freiburg this past weekend. I guess good that they got a result away because Freiburg have been really good at home, but they were up, I think, took a lead three times, or at least I think they were up 2-0. Allowed a goal and an equalizer 2-2, took a lead 3-2. So I guess only two different leads, but still, that's a lot. And then really got a goal line on the like goal decision system, like was literally saved off the line there in the last few seconds, minutes, whatever, um, at Freiburg. And I'm concerned about Eintracht Frankfurt a fair amount. They've done a lot of business probably more business than almost anybody in the European markets in that January window. Brought in a lot of new players. We go back at TK from Paris Saint-Germain from Liga, who's been there, and that I think he was at Rems before that. Awesome player, but he hasn't been starting yet. Clearly has more talent than almost anybody on that team, though. Marmoush has been playing really well for Frankfurt, and I think that eventually Ikatike is going to be their Randall Colomwani, who's going to work in and be their starting striker, and then Marmoush will play off of him. But until that happens, it's hard to say what will happen there. In that matchup, they took a 2-0 lead on Union Saint-Gilloise on the road. It looked really ugly early, then made a huge mistake on a back pass where central defensive midfielder ended up just completely missing the ball, whiffing on it, and that gave up a goal, and then gave up a second goal, and then now this tie is fully in the balance. We don't know who's going to win. Union Saint-Gilloise, they did really great in Germany. I think they beat Union Berlin three times, I want to say, or maybe four times that they played in the same group, and then also in the playoff round. If I want to, they had different rules last year. So they won't be scared. They did sell a ton of players, including Boniface, the star striker from Leverkusen. I think Union Saint-Gilloise, they're half a goal underdog on the road, a little bit more juice. Over under here is 2.5. Juice is split both ways. I think Eintracht Frankfurt, they've looked like a team that takes a lead and then tries to kill matches, but it didn't work twice last weekend. Yes, they're underdogs and they're away from home in both of them, and maybe this will be a little bit easier for them. But they tried that same type of strategy to kill the match off against their big rival, the bottom of the Bundesliga in Darmstadt, and ended up giving up two goals, I think, to surrender their lead. So I don't know necessarily where I am about the Eintracht Frankfurt defense at this point. I still think it's probably they have so much talent offensively. So that's a great thing for them. But I think ultimately Union Saint-Gilloise, they're an aggressive team that's going to play a little bit more open than I'd probably feel comfortable with. But I feel like that total is just probably too high. So I like under 2.5 there in Union Saint-Gilloise visiting Frankfurt, the financial capital of Deutschland. Slovan Bratislava then hosts Sturm Graz from Austria, Bratislava from Bratislava, Slovakia. Slovan probably should give it away. Sturm Graz were a much bigger favorite than I was expecting and took care of business, won 4-1 that first leg. So they've got a pretty significant advantage. Slovan Bratislava currently a pick 'em with all the juice. Over under is 2 3/4. Juice more to over. So Slovan Bratislava, they need 3 goals at least, and to win by 3 goals in order to have any sort of chance to move through. I don't really expect that to happen, but they're going to be aggressive. So I don't really want anything to do with an under here. I don't love playing overs in this competition. I think Sturm Graz are going to play probably a more open brand of football than I would say. Just literally just kill the clock the whole time and get your way through. But I guess if you play that way, you do leave yourself open to fatigue and to potentially have a little bit more trouble to actually get through. So I don't know what to do with that one. Ultimately, I thought Slovan Bratislava had gotten a lot of respect over the time in this competition or in these competitions, and clearly fell flat on their face as the market kind of expected with the big price last weekend, or last Thursday is more accurate to say. Legia Warsaw then hosts Molde. Currently, it was a 3-2 Molde victory at home. So Legia Warsaw have the initiative, have a responsibility to win this match at home, second leg. And if they win it, they at worst go to extra time. If they win by multiple goals, they can kill it dead there. Molde getting all the juice right now at a half of a goal underdog. I feel like they are. I don't think the Polish sides have really done very well in these competitions for a while. Molde, I think, are one of the biggest sides in Norway, which doesn't say too much, but um, Molde Football Club, I believe, FK. Total here is 2 3/4. Just a little bit more to under. I feel like Legend of Warsaw, they're going to have to come out and win this match, and that's going to leave them in a little bit more of a dangerous situation in peril, you could even say. So I'll put Molde on my list. I like the getting the half of a goal. I don't know that I really have much interest in a total here going under. And as my dryer goes off, perfect timing as we're about to get through this episode. But if the beeping would stop, that'd be great. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I certainly can. So don't want to have anything interfere with you all hearing the thoughts of the real underscore G Warner on random matches in random countries that I probably will never visit, though I'd like to. Last but not least, we'll go Ferencváros. They are Budapest in Hungary, a place I definitely want to go and was supposed to go, if not for COVID way back when. They host Olympiacos from Piraeus or Athens, or the port area, I believe. Ferencváros, a quarter goal favorite at home with more of the juice. Over under here is 2.5. Juice more to under. And this was a 1-0 victory, I think late goal from Olympiacos, which I was thinking about betting Ferencváros under and the side. So I guess I would have split. So no harm, no foul, I guess. But ultimately probably would have cost me some juice. Ferencváros, they've been very defensive every time I've watched them across the various competitions, though for the most part, I feel like they've usually been underdogs. So it's a little bit weird to see them a favorite here, but they're going to have to go for it. And that's going to be probably difficult. Olympiacos' defense has been pretty underwhelming, disappointing for a long time, I must say. So I don't know how much I want to bet under here, but I feel like their ticket to the next round is to keep a clean sheet. So I'm fairly interested in them preventing Ferencváros, a team that doesn't score a lot of goals, from scoring. Plus, I like the idea that Ferencváros and Dibush, their goalkeeper, who should be very well on display for Hungary this summer in the Euros, which I plan to attend. If anyone's going to that, please look me up or let me know the best way to get tickets. That would be great. In Germany and Deutschland, I don't speak any of the language, so that's a bit of a problem, but I think tickets will be a lot easier to get than the last time I was in Germany a couple of years ago. So I think my biggest interest in that one is just the under 2.5, because I think Ferencváros, it's going to be hard for them to get out of their defensive ways. And as we say this, it takes a little bit to under as we're speaking. I guess live lines a bet online. So if you're not a member there, check it out. We've got links for 50% match bonus on your first time deposit at bet online, or 100% on their sister site, SportsBetting.ag. That will come in the podcast description if you're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or on Spotify. But that'll be my best interest in that game is the Olympiacos under 2.5. Like I said, we don't have any two advanced numbers here. Probably will not get them. I don't think I saw any the last time either. But it's now time for the ultimate best bet. So if you're not a subscriber yet, make sure you do that. Leave a 5-star review. It's huge for the rankings. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, become a patron. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything. I've been hot 69% since Friday in soccer. Had a very good run. Champions League has been very, very good to me and my family, which is just me, really. But also college basketball. I think I'm about to lose this Air Force pick tonight, which is very disappointing. But I guess 36 points won't get you done in, I guess, 20 or 37 minutes now approaching. Yikes. But I think I'm well over 30 units. I think my high water mark this season was 39 units. I think this will drop me back to about 34 or 35 in the positive direction, hitting over 58%. So that's probably not something you'll see a lot of places, and done it 2 years in a row, won 36 units last year. So go take a look at my Patreon. It's a good spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything. And I put out a notification if you download the app and turn on notifications each time I lock something in. So you'd have the best plan or best idea to get the same prices I'm getting, because there's a good winner today on actually Southern Illinois, which if you played the closing line, you would have lost. But if you played the opener at the price that I gave, and if you had notifications on, then you won that bet. And those are exactly what I'm looking for and for what I'm trying to help my clients with. So check that out, patreon.com. It's the real underscore G Warner. And if you want info on how to get signed up for that, if you're not familiar with that platform, let me know. Feel free to slide in some DMs to real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'll answer wherever I see it as soon as I see it. And thank you, of course, to the pregame subscribers as well. I know a lot of you have been riding with me the whole season, and we'll continue to do that. I appreciate it. In terms of podcast activity this weekend, I'm going to Lawrence, Kansas for the last Texas at Kansas football or basketball game. Wow, football, LOL. Basketball game that will probably ever occur at the Fog. So if anyone has some ideas on tickets for, I guess not general admission because that seems to be standing room only, which I guess I could do for a couple hours, but Texas probably gets blown out, but probably will be a 10-point underdog or so. But you never know. I think Kansas has some flaws, and usually those are not exposed at home, but maybe just maybe when I'm in the building, we'll potentially see some. So I guess it's time for the ultimate best bet. So let me get my camera ready so I can put this on YouTube and on Instagram. So all of you, if you are ADD or just want to get this in 1 minute installments rather than hear me go for 45 minutes on the Europa Conference League and Europa League, maybe that's best spot for you all to do it. But I guess let's go into it. I haven't said my ultimate best bet or my lean in the Europa Conference League, so trying to keep that as interesting for everyone as possible. So let's do it. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet for betting the pitch, the Europa League and Europa Conference League edition. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. So it's real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports, soccer, college basketball, the main ones right now, baseball coming up this summer. And it's a very affordable price to get on some really great winners. 69% since Friday in soccer, and I'm over 58% through a long extended period in college basketball after winning 36 units last year. I think we're up 34 this year. So chugging right along, trying to set some new records this year. As for this episode, my best bet from the Europa League is the Lens under 2.25 goals. And from the Europa Conference League, I like Dinamo Zagreb under 2.5. For ultimate best bet, I'm going to pick that under in Croatia. Dinamo Zagreb under 2.5 goals, hosting Real Betis. Road team needs to score goals to win this match. I don't trust them to score at all, but I trust their defense. So play under 2.5 in Dinamo Zagreb hosting Real Betis. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in. Whether you're watching anywhere you are, subscribe, tell your friends. The more hits I get, the more of these I do. I'd love to do this every night, but unfortunately, I don't know that I got enough time for that just yet. Also, I'm hoping to have some good updates career-wise coming up pretty soon, but I don't want to jinx it until there's ink put to paper. Thank you all for support so far. And I hope to make you all proud in the next venture we come through. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast with Big East Ben. I'll have another Thursday night episode, though it's currently Thursday in Dallas, Texas, with AJ Hoffman for college basketball via pregame. So if you want to hear me, you want to hear this voice and probably not see this face, but hear the voice instead, face for radio. Go check me out wherever you are, the real_G Warner across all platforms. If I'm not there yet, tell me I should get there and I'll sign up.